Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the NFL podcast Laces Out. Me and Mr. Williams are talking about what happened last week, talking about what's going to come up this week, and we're trying to get an idea of what the playoff picture is going to look like. If you're checking us out on YouTube, looking at our beautiful faces, you might be a YouTube subscriber, which is cool. If you're not a subscriber, a little click of a button will change that. Makes a big change to the channel, helps us, and ultimately it helps you. So here we go. This is CookieCast Laces Out. That time of the week again. That time of the season. Both, I don't know what you call it, like weather season and NFL football season. That's right, you've guessed it. It is indeed the NFL podcast Laces Out. I'm here, and my glamorous co-host is here. We've got rid of all of those pesky guests. They get a bit unruly talking about all that nonsense about, going to the playoffs, and it gets a bit sickening after a while. So it's good to get rid of them. Clean sweep,
Off like a disease lid.
Yes, absolutely. No, of course we're only joking. The truth of the matter is
we're only semi-joking.
The truth of the matter is that we, and by we, of course mean me, did not take any time to secure any guests for this week. I had considered doubling down on the guests, but realised that obviously one of the two of them wouldn't have been overly pleased to talk about no longer being in the playoffs. So I decided to shy away from that. And obviously, at time of recording, we are a mere, what do we say, 2-3 days away from the Christmas.
The big day.
The big day, as it's known. And, people are mostly unavailable.
It is quite hard to tie people down.
It is. Well, it's not for me. I'm quite a big guy, so brute force and ignorance in it.
Yeah, good point.
Oh, you mean get guests? Oh, I thought we were talking about kidnapping.
Yeah, that's.
I thought we were talking about kidnapping people. I've totally got the wrong end of the stick there. Anywho, well, it's that point in the season. The inevitable point where we start, looking towards the playoff. Words like clinched, which I'm not sure I like that word. I've heard it a lot over the last few days, especially Sunday, and I'm not sure I like the word clinched. Sounds a little bit too much like certain other words, a little bit too much like some other words. It's like, I don't think I like it as a word. But that's not what's important here. What's important here is who's going to the playoffs. And for me, what's important there is the Seahawks clinched. If that's what you want to say. Obviously, we will be talking extensively about the fact that what was supposed to be a 16-0 Steelers. The Bengals.
A bit of foreshadowing there, Andrew.
The Bengals. It's always going to happen. It's always going to happen. I actually put money on it happening. Unfortunately, the other game...
Did you?
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, the other games I put money on... we don't talk about that in our house. We don't talk about that in our house because I have a feeling that I have an inkling the way the predictions are going to go this week, for the fact that somebody, not going to use any names, was gloating about how much money they won. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of spoilers involved there, and we're not in the business of spoilers. So we do need to talk about last week. I've covered a few things off there. We have to talk about teams that are going to the playoffs, and we have to talk about teams that aren't going to. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it in my beard? Is the saliva in my beard? Oh.
Is it? I get where you're coming from, but is it only a win if both them and Brady miss the playoffs?
So there was this thing about the fact that there was a chance that the Patriots would not make the playoffs, and the Bucks would make the playoffs. For the first time in 17 years, is it?
Yeah, I think they've got the longest active drought. I think, because I think it was the Bills up until a couple of years ago, and then it became the Bucks. So that sounds about right.
So there was that conversation. I'd say obviously there's a lot of memes floating around. There was one about it wasn't Brady that was doing it for the Patriots. You put anybody into the Patriots machine, and they'll become a top tier quarterback, and they're absolutely going to be able to work with Cam to get him up to Super Bowl level. Yeah, there's that. I mean, condolences to the Patriots and to the Patriot fans. I mean, that team is a three-legged donkey at the moment, and it's beautiful. But again, probably jumping ahead somewhat. Any standout moments for
a little bit
for you in the last week, Mr. Williams?
I mean, the one, it's got to be the Jets, really, hasn't it?
What possible reason would they have to win that game? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've now lost their first round pick.
Well, they've lost the overall number one pick. So the Jags are now in the number one slot.
I saw a meme earlier, and it was perfect. It was the end from the end of Avengers: Infinity War, where the little Gamora is talking to Thanos, but Thanos has got a Jets band on. And little Gamora's like, "Did you win the game?" And Thanos is like, "Yes." Gamora's like, "What did it cost?" Thanos is like, "Everything." It was a thing of beauty.
I heard there was some comment on Twitter. Well, there was apparently something on Twitter about, obviously, some Jets fans were like, "Awesome, we're not going to go 0-16," and then there were other Jets fans who were like, "Fucking hell's sake, this is absolute nonsense. We're going to miss out on Lawrence. This is not how this was supposed to go." So, who knows? Obviously, there's still 2 weeks left, so the Jags could pull a win out of their absolute arses at some point in the next 2 weeks. Who knows?
It's not likely.
Well, let's put it this way: it would be the most Jags thing ever to bookend the season with wins against the Colts. So, who knows?
Who does know? Certainly nobody at the Jets knows what's going on. That's for sure. It was kind of amusing in the sense that they beat the Rams, who had been sort of trundling along through this season, and in such a monumental way. like I say, I mean, probably one of the most standout things for the week has to be the not only the fact that the Bengals beat the Steelers, it was how much the Bengals beat the Steelers by. You know, if it had come down to, you know, kicking a field goal, it's like, okay, you can accept that a little bit more, but they destroyed them.
Certainly did.
I mean, there's very little point in you and I discussing the fantasy, other than the fact that I had a win this week, which meant that I, for the overall 2 weeks, I won against my 2-week opponent. I had a little message from him on Sunday that was just like, "What the F word?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I think at that point it was predicting me in the upper 90s to win, and I think so far into the games, I think I'd hit 99% chance of winning. So,
well, strange.
I mean, let's finish it out. Did you manage to beat your opponent in the last 2 weeks?
So I think at the start of Sunday's games, I think I had a 14% chance of winning.
Okay.
And I ended up losing by 1 point, all because of the fact that Juju Smith-Schuster can't hold a fucking football.
Oopsie.
So because he scored -1, I lost out on the playoffs. But obviously, the only thing to win was not being in the Dross Bowl. So even then, it would have only been the smallest of hollow, pointless, non-existent victories. So I'm not particularly bothered.
It's that thing, isn't it? That when there's a league as big as ours, when you're not one of the 4 that goes to the playoffs, there's a lot of people that are just like, now what do I do? It's like, yeah, I won my 2 weeks. Makes no difference to anything. Like,
yeah, all the suppose it does is it moves you up 1 bracket. So you won't play me in the Dross Bowl.
No. It's an achievement in itself.
Well played.
Thanks. Now then, I know that the stats mistress was hard at work this afternoon when I dropped in on her as a.
Whoa there, Nelly.
But before we
last week's predictions?
Yeah, before we get to the stats, we need to discuss how the predictions bowl went. Because
he's on the ball.
We actually had guests.
He knows what he's doing.
We had not only guests, we had double guests. So 2 times the charm when it comes to guest picks. Personally, I'm kind of hopeful that one of the guests did, some damage in the sense that I'm pretty sure I know the way this week's predictions has gone, and I'm pretty sure that that's going to make for a clear victor. But anyway,
let's not jump ahead. Let's not jump ahead. Let's savour the moment. Let's build up to it, Andrew. So
I don't want to.
16 games to pick from, as per usual. We had the final Thursday night football of the season. We had 2 Saturday games, and then a regular slot of the remaining games.
Mm.
So 16 points up for grabs. Let's beat around the bush no further.
Mm.
In joint last place with a respectable 10 out of 16 picks correct.
I mean, 10's not bad.
It's one of the guests and this guy.
Ah.
Sadly, my out there call of the Saints to beat the Chiefs was sadly scuppered when Michael Thomas was put on injured reserve. So, as it turned out as well, if the Saints had managed to recover that fumble in the end zone, then I got 5 more points rather than just the 2 for the safety, and I'd have been sitting here looking pretty smug. I still lost.
I've seen that video a few times.
And I still lost, but I would have been looking pretty smug nonetheless. So it was myself and James who had 10 out of 16 picks correct. Next, in third place, I suppose, with 11 out of 16 picks correct, is the podcast host, Mr. Andrew Cook.
Thank you.
Which moves us on to the top 2.
I mean, there is a no-win situation here.
I mean, yes. Yeah. Yes and no. In second place, with a very, very respectable 13 out of 16 picks correct. Oh, good. I forgot to say, you got 11 out of 16 picks.
Oh, that's okay.
So, second place with 13 out of 16 picks, it is the other guest, Mr. Matthew, 2 teams Hurley. Which the savvy amongst you will obviously realise that leaves one person.
No.
She's been on what can only be described as the hottest of streaks in the last 5 to 6 weeks. She's basically gone from having half a point, no points, something like that, and she's absolutely nailed it.
Yes, indeed.
With an incredible 14 of 16 picks correct. The stats mistress, Leanne, absolutely nails it. She was the only one to pick the Chargers. She was the only one to pick the Cowboys. And it paid off for her. What can I say? And the two games she was let down on was obviously the Rams not to beat the Jets, and the Steelers not to beat the Bengals.
Yeah.
So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Indeed.
So what that does for the overall standings, the guest in last place, 2.5 points.
I can handle that.
Andrew Cook, third place, 3.5 points. Paul Williams, second place, 4 points. Out in front with an almost unassailable 1.5 lead.
Yeah.
You're on the stats mistress with 5.5 points, which means the worst she can do is be level on points with yourself. And it basically means that I need to absolutely annihilate the last 2 weeks to the predictions to win. So, this in theory could be all done and dusted by next week, and she can rest all her starters for week 17. She can basically pick tie for every game if she wanted to, and still win.
Oh wow!
There you go.
There we go. It's the sleeping dog, the dark horse, the other analogy that you got to watch out for. The quiet ones. There we go. Well. Points to be had. It's all to play for. It's just not looking too promising. As I alluded to, she did have an accumulator win at the weekend. Decided to just pick games that she was quite confident on being able to pick the outcome. As we've seen, she's quite good at picking the games. So she went with that. Added herself a little win thanks to the aforementioned Dallas Cowboys. And as I was saying at the time that she was informing me of this, Dallas Cowboys. It's funny how if you take Dak Prescott and Zeke out of the equation, how they're not too bad a team, are they?
Wow.
He's a terrible quarterback. He's
terrible at keeping his ankle in like a straight line.
Amongst other things. You know, playing football being one of them. He's good at doing that. He's good at doing that dance. Holy smokes, did you see those Drew Brees warm-ups?
I saw bits of him sort of like on the floor.
Yeah, helicopter leg things.
Yeah.
That was insane. My youngest has been watching and she was reenacting them this evening. It was hilarious. It's like, hey, she's doing that Drew Brees workout. Speaking of the stats mistress and all of her victories, she's not too busy cashing checks and winning points to take time out of her busy schedule to get in touch with Nate Davis of USA Today.
Garnish us with a few stats here and there.
Got all of the stats, boiled them down, took the finest of those stats and presented them to us, the mere mortals. I, being the generous and some would say gracious host, have split those right down the centre. Gave half to Mr. Williams, kept half for myself. So, what those stats say to me is this. Week 15 NFL Stats 2020 season. Credit to Nate Davis of USA Today, but let's face it, bigger credit to the stats mistress. Stat number 1. The Jets will not become the NFL's third 0-16 team, leaving the 2008 Lions and the 2017 Browns in history's dustbin after upsetting the Rams on Sunday afternoon. The Rams must now wait a week to clinch a playoff spot, having lost the first place in the NFC West. Number 2. The New England Patriots have officially failed to reach the playoffs for the first time since 2008. Their record 11-year run reaching postseason spiked by the Dolphins on Sunday. Gotta love them Dolphins. Fins up, baby. Funnily enough, it's almost like we already knew what the stats were, because the third stat is, elsewhere, ex-Patriot quarterback Tom Brady led the Buccaneers to the verge of their first postseason trip since 2007. Brady, 390 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, won for the seventh time in his 21-year career despite trailing by at least 17 points, tying Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers for the most such comebacks. TB12 found wide receiver Antonio Brown for the game-winning 46-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter. It was Antonio Brown's first score in 462 days. The previous one also coming courtesy of Brady when both played for the New England Patriots in 2019. Need a drink after that. 4. Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald scored his first touchdown in 364 days. And Ravens wide receiver Des Bryant scored his first touchdown in 1,106 days. Threw up the X, didn't he? Presume he's still mad as a box of frogs, but hey. The Chiefs won the matchup of the day, outlasting the Saints 32-29, but possibly leaving themselves with a decimated backfield after rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire was helped off the field. Running back Le'Veon Bell also looked beaten up by the game's end. Not a good day for the Saints either. Quarterback Drew Brees looking rusty in his return, one that didn't have the benefit of wide receiver Michael Thomas, who landed on injury reserve Saturday courtesy of his lingering ankle injury.
I don't think it's a long-term thing though. I think he's only on injured reserve till the end of the regular season. He should be back for the playoffs, from what I saw. So
yeah,
it's not disastrous for him.
I think okay. Sean Payton had been quoted as saying they absolutely wouldn't be able to do the playoffs without him. So I think their goal, their number one, is to get him fit and ready.
It must be like there must be some sort of curse for sort of players who were fantasy studs last season just having a shit season this year round, because you've got arguably the top two in McCaffrey and Thomas that have been absolute fantasy busts this season. Yep. I mean, Derrick Henry's like the anomaly, I suppose, but yeah, Thomas and McCaffrey, shit out.
Yep. And finally, for me, Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz wants out of Philadelphia, per reports. If he loses his job to rookie Jalen Hurts, 338 yards passing, 63 rushing, 4 total touchdowns on Sunday. Unfortunately on Sunday for Hurts, Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray passed for a career best 406 yards and 3 touchdowns and ran for another to keep Arizona in the NFC's projected playoff bracket. There you go. Those are my stats. I will hand the reins over to you, sir.
Thank you very kindly. This isn't an official stat, but just a little note about that game was that it was a matchup between the previous two Oklahoma Sooners quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. So you had Kyler that was taken in the draft 2 years ago, and Jalen Hurts that was taken in the draft this year. Mm-hmm. Just a little JR based Oklahoma Sooners stats. So Boomer Sooners. Right then, let's pick up this one. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens quarterback, joined Michael Vick as the only quarterback with 2 seasons of at least 800 rushing yards. I had a quick look at the rushing stats earlier on today, and I think he's in the top 10 of all players for rushing this season, which is sick.
Yep.
Once on pace for a historically putrid season, the Seahawks defense has allowed fewer than 300 yards in 3 of the past 4 games, and no more than 17 points in any of those games, including Sunday's 20-15 playoff clinching defeat of the Washington football team. Mm-hmm. Credit the return of safety Jamal Adams as the stabilising factor. Adams' 9.5 sacks are a single-season record for an NFL defensive back. He set another mark for DBs on Sunday by notching a sack in 4 consecutive games. He does look to be probably the best safety in the game.
Indeed.
Titans running back Derrick Henry garners most of the attention Tennessee manages to generate national. And why not? Now that he has a career-high 1,679 yards and still has a reasonable shot at reaching 2,000. His 9 100-yard rushing days in 2020 are the most in the NFL since 2014. So he's at 1,679 yards now. So he's probably going to fall just shy of 2,000, but he needs quick bit of maths here. 50. He basically needs 160-ish yards in both of his last contests to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But let's recognise what a fabulous season Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill has had in his first year as the team's full-time starter, especially after he became the first player to pass for 3 touchdowns and rush for 2 in the same game during Sunday's victory, which kept Tennessee in first place and on course for an AFC South crown. Oh, sad news now. The reigning NFC champion San Francisco 49ers were officially eliminated from playoff contention on Sunday.
Indeed.
What a shame. What a shame that team that's been pretty much in a false position for the past 18 months has finally been put back to where they are and where they should really be. Finally, one final stat for you there. Nice to see that Raiders quarterback Marcus Mariota played so well in relief of the injured starter Derek Carr. Mariota, who lost his starting job in Tennessee last year, signed with Las Vegas in 2020, and he passed for 226 yards and a touchdown while rushing for a team-best 88 and another score in his silver and black debut. The stats mistress will be thrilled, no doubt.
She's loving it. Absolutely loving it. I was going to say, weirdly, I was going to say about like the Tannehill thing. And it's like, it's one of those, isn't it, that some quarterbacks just aren't at the right team, and it's when they move to another team that they really shine. And I think, you could easily say about Tannehill, he's having an absolute worldie season.
He is.
And by the looks of, I mean, it's one game, and he'll have wanted to impress. But it sounds like Mariota did reasonably well.
I don't know what the injury was. I don't know what the injury that Carr got was.
Yeah,
so there was long term.
Yeah, there was some debate around what was wrong with Carr. So yeah, not overly sure on that one. Obviously, that is the end of the stats. We've got no injuries because, as we like to say, it's 2020, so presume that all of your team is injured. And if you do that, you'll successfully be able to pick players who are maybe going to play this week. So that's that week done. Close that book. Looking forward. So, are all the playoff position? They won't all be decided at this point in time.
Playoff picture? No, there's still wild cards and stuff up for grabs. So, I think AFC's a lot more close than the NFC because obviously the NFC's a bit more wide open because of how bad the NFC East is. So even though I think the Eagles are now bottom, they can still get in.
We had that conversation.
I'll need to check that.
We had that conversation a few weeks back, didn't we? Saying that somebody who ends up bottom can still go to the playoffs, and it's just a bizarre system.
Yeah, it needs to change. Really.
Yeah, it does.
But it almost certainly will not because of, Merck and that. So they obviously know best. Right. It is loading. Trust me, it's just very slow. In fact, what I'm going to do is as I know from past experience, to make things quicker, I'll turn off my Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So, AFC. Clinched playoff spots. We have the Kansas City Chiefs, 13-1. In the 2 seed, not the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the Buffalo Bills at 11-3. You then have the Steelers at 11-3. And then we have the teams that are in the hunt. So, The Tennessee Titans are leading the AFC South at 10-4, so would have the 4th seed.
Mm-hmm.
Then for your wildcard teams, you have current 5th seed is the Cleveland Browns. Current 6th seed is the Indianapolis Colts. Current 7th seed is the Miami Dolphins. Those teams are on 10-4, 10-4, and 9-5, respectively. So, on the bubble, there are 2 other teams who, in theory, can still get in. So, the Baltimore Ravens are 9-5,
Mm.
and the Raiders are 7-7. At this point, it's looking a bit unlikely that the Raiders will get in because they need to win both their last 2 games and hope that the Dolphins don't get another win, or the Ravens for that matter. So the Ravens are playing the Giants this weekend, so
That's a win right there.
that'll be the Raiders eliminated from the playoff picture.
Yeah,
That'll be nice. Let's switch over to the NFC, shall we?
Mm.
So, the Packers are the current number 1 seed with a record of 11-3. Next, we have the Saints at 10-4 and the Seattle Seahawks at 10-4 in 2 and 3, respectively. They have all clinched, so they're all in the playoffs. Then, the 4th seed is the delightfully dross Washington football team at 6-8. Then we move on to the wild cards. The 5th seed, the Los Angeles Rams at 9-5. 6th seed, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 9-5. 7th seed, Arizona Cardinals at 8-6.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the bubble, so here's the teams that can still get in, but need to start picking up some more wins. So we have the Chicago Bears at 7-7. The Minnesota Vikings at 6-8. The Cowboys and Giants both at 5-9, and the Eagles at 4-9-1. So obviously, the Cowboys, Giants, and Eagles are all hoping that the Washington football team lose out, so they end up at 6-10, and then one of the Cowboys, Giants, or Eagles can sneak in at either 7-9 or 6-9-1. So, if the Eagles can win out, so if the Eagles win out and get in off the back of the tie that they had with the Bengals in week, God knows what that was, 3 or something like that.
I was just about to say, you can guarantee it's going to be the Eagles. The way it works, it'll end up being the Eagles that go through, and it'll be like, what is going on?
Well, from a games this week perspective, it's basically a straight shootout between the Eagles and Cowboys for playoff spot. So whichever team wins stays alive. Whichever team loses is eliminated from the playoff race.
Yep.
I mean, there are a couple of others that are probably in that similar boat. You'd imagine that if the Vikings get beat by the Saints on Christmas Day, they're done for, because that'll put them to 6-9. Yes, that'll put them at 6-9. And the best they can hope for is 7-9, so they'll be eliminated with a loss.
Yeah.
The Bears, in theory, should still stay alive, even if they get beaten by the Jaguars, but that's probably unlikely. The Giants are playing the Ravens, and I think even with a loss there, they can still get to 6 wins. So they, as long as Washington don't win, and they're playing the Carolina Panthers, who knows? So yeah, a couple of clinching scenarios, I think. So I think the Washington could be a win-and-in situation for them this week. I think just due to head-to-head record, I think they've got the tiebreaker over the Cowboys. Oh no, because the Giants have the tiebreaker over Washington. So maybe not. It all depends if the Giants lose and Washington win, I think they're in.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Sounds likely. As far as picks concerned, I sent you some picks. I know that much. I believe.
I think I can sort of surreptitiously do this. So
there's me.
Andy.
I did my job. There's you. You did your job.
Leanne.
She sent hers. That's good.
Now, normally, there's. I'll see if I do it like that. It'll sort of. You can see there.
Whoa. Well,
there's a fourth column.
There's a fourth column.
There's a fourth column filled with picks.
Which can only be.
Now, the only thing is, I can only assume that the listeners and the viewers are just currently screaming at the screen, just thinking, well, "What's going on?" There's guest picks, but I'm only seeing two people on my screen. I'm only hearing two people talk. What's the crack here? What are you up to? Some might say. What are you playing at, lads? What we're playing at is. I don't know why it didn't dawn on me to do this before in previous weeks where we didn't have a guest. But as I was putting the book together, I turned to my right and there was a person sat next to me who had a mouth and an opinion. Therefore, it is at this point that I'd love to turn the laptop round and show you the person sat to my right, but unfortunately...
There's no one there.
There's no one there.
There is no one there.
So, while she's not here to give voice to her opinion, she has given her opinion in the form of stats, and it is Amy.
Amy.
So, this week's guest, from a predictions perspective...
Playing for the guest.
Playing for the guest is Amy Brinton. She has already made a catastrophic error by picking the Vikings to beat the Saints. Although, saying that, last two times they've played each other, I'm pretty sure the Vikings have had the Saints' number.
So I literally in the last few minutes, I was like, the Vikings are absolutely not going to beat the Saints. And then I was like, why does that ring a bell? It's like, I'm pretty sure there's history there. So, this would absolutely be the week that the Vikings walk out and put a 50 burger on the Saints.
Oh yeah, this has got a Kirk Cousins 600-yard game written all over it or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely has.
So, it could be an inspired choice. Who knows? Other than that, she has picked the Lions to beat the Bucks. Maybe she knows something.
The Lions actually looked quite interesting this weekend. They looked like they had a little bit of fight in them, which is unusual for them.
Be interesting to see what happens to the Lions in the off-season, because obviously they're going to be getting a new head coach. There's a bit of talk, sort of, around, is this the year when they just say, listen, Matthew Stafford's given us, 12 years now? He's given us 12 seasons where he's basically just tried his art out and stuff like that. Is it time for us to maybe let him go and try and win a Super Bowl with a team that's ready to win a Super Bowl as a sort of a thank you for trying his best for the last sort of 12 years?
Yeah.
Is he the sort of guy who, if Rivers doesn't get it done with Indianapolis this year, does he decide to call it a day? Does he go there and take over from Rivers? Is it a case of if Breeze decides he don't want to do it anymore, does he slot in there, or are they happy to go with Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston? There's a couple of landing spots. Obviously, you'd imagine that if he's going to go from the Lions, it won't be to go to the Jags or the Jets. You'd imagine he'd want to go somewhere that has got a shot at getting to the Super Bowl. Is it a ridiculous thing to say? Do the Cowboys pass on Dak and say, why not let's ride with Matthew Stafford for a year? I'll double check this, but I think he's from Texas.
I mean, there's always there's always a homer in New England, I would have thought.
So, he was born in Tampa. However, he went to high school in Dallas, Texas.
Highland Park. Nice.
So, I'm gonna go early. I'm gonna make an early call and say that Dak doesn't agree a new contract and they part ways, and Stafford ends up on the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to call that now.
If I'm honest, I've been saying for a little while, since the Cowboys played the Bengals, Andy Dalton's been looking real comfortable in that role.
Not really a starter anymore, though, is he? He's
probably not.
Fair enough. He's done well when he's been like called on and stuff for the Cowboys. There's still a competent quarterback in there, but he's not an exciting choice, is he? He's not something that's going to sell. He's not someone who's going to sell 100,000 season tickets, is he? The old Red Rifle.
I mean, he has done better than their starter, but we don't talk about that, do we? That shit.
Controversial opinion from Andrew Cook.
Not really.
Other than that, it's usual sledding. Really, we've got very much similar picks. We're pretty much split 50-50 on the Colts-Steelers game. Two picks for each. Same with the Washington Panthers game. Same with the Chargers-Broncos game. 2 picks each. And then, arguably, game of the week, for me, it's the Titans at the Packers. I'm alone. I'm on my own in being fully placed on Titan Island.
Really?
Everyone else has backed the pack.
I had a conversation with Robert Rafton, and he was adamant that the Packers will be one of the 2 teams at this year's Super Bowl. And as I said to him, on paper, you might be correct, but I don't know how many more times do we have to talk about. Look at it, he loves it. The fact that the Packers just can't get it done in the playoffs. They just fall apart when it comes to the playoffs. And old Aaron starts to lose his rag, and it's just like, nobody's playing this game properly.
Got the old boo-boo face on, hasn't he?
He's so miserable.
Pretty much.
It feels very much like he should have stopped playing a few years ago, probably when he still enjoyed the sport, because he's not a happy camper, is he? He should just carry on doing insurance adverts. At least he looks happy in them.
Who knows? I think the weird thing is on the NFC side, I think it's wide open.
Yeah.
AFC, I think you'd have to be a bold man to be calling anyone other than the Chiefs to go all the way.
Yeah.
Saying that, I'd happily sit through a Bills-Chiefs AFC Championship game at the minute, because I reckon that could be a bit of a shootout.
Yeah, the Bills are dangerous, real dangerous this season. They've been working up to this for the last couple of seasons. They've been like taking down big teams and stuff, and now everything seems to be clicking, and they are a dangerous team to go up against. There's certain teams that if you look at like, so-and-so's playing the Bills this week, you'd lean towards the Bills to beat some of those big names. So, there we go. Well, at this point in time, certainly from a fantasy perspective, season's nearly over. From a season perspective, season's nearly over. Can you believe it? Then it'll just be a load of playoffs to go through, and then that'll be the big one. Can almost see it coming over the hill. Not that far away now. But until then, we will endeavour to keep you guys posted with what's going on, and we'll see who wins the predictions, see who wins the Super Bowl predictions, and all of the MVP run and all of that gubbins. So until next time, it's goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. And I'll catch you next time. Bye. There you go, watch things that. Another one done. Another week of the season gone. Another week closer to the Super Bowl. And the end of the season. Ugh. Miserable. YouTube watchers, if you could subscribe, it's a big help to us. And ultimately, it'll be a big help to you. Helps the channel grow. Obviously, we've got our SoundCloud and iTunes options, and you can follow us along on there and also like and share. Everybody jump over to thecookiecast.com, check us out over there. You can send us love via social media or email. That's it for this one, and as it's that time of year, I'm going to say bye, and Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays or one of those ones. Bye.